Thank you for joining us. I'm Marnie Hughes at our NewsNation headquarters in Chicago, bringing you this week's missing persons case. And just a couple things before we share this week's story with you about what we're doing here online on our social media channels. This is an opportunity for us to dive deeper into some of the cases that we follow, to also incorporate you into the discussion, sometimes the investigation. So in a moment, we'll share with you the focus of this week's case and Jacob Paddock-Weeks, a young man from Colorado. And I want you to watch the story, and if you have questions about the case for his stepmom, who will be joining me after the story airs, please post those wherever you are watching right now, if it's on Twitter or our website or another social media channel. Also, if you have questions about our missing series, this is a good opportunity to ask me about our continued series, specific to this case, of course, but also a broader picture, what we're doing as we continue to focus on missing persons cases across the country. So post your questions now. We have a team monitoring those questions, and I'll incorporate them into my discussion with Amanda Weeks in just a moment. This is an informal discussion, but it's an important one that we have every single week. This week's case, as I said, takes us to Colorado, and a Colorado mom is refusing to give up hope, even though her stepson has been missing for more than 3 weeks. His name is Jacob Paddock-Weeks, and he was seen walking away from a car crash in 2019, and he has never been seen again. His family is desperate for answers, and despite some things that he may have been dealing with at the time, they are hopeful he's still out there and that he comes home safely. Here now is a closer look at Jacob's story. Even the joy of a brand new grandchild muted by the pain of a son missing.
In my heart, I still believe he's out there.
Amanda Weeks refusing to give up on her stepson, Jacob Paddock-Weeks. On February 2nd, 2019, along this stretch of Highway 285 in Jefferson County, Colorado, 7:30 in the morning, the 27-year-old lost control of his Dodge Ram and crashed.
Jacob had been going about 80 miles an hour down the mountain, and he hit about 500 feet of the inner guardrail coming down the mountain.
Witnesses said Jacob got out of his truck appearing unhurt. He then ran across the road, heading east into the wooded hills. According to the accident report, his wallet, ID, and 2 cell phones were left behind in the truck, along with a small bag of drugs. At the time of the accident, Jacob was on probation for several misdemeanor charges, including driving under the influence.
I think it's probably more than likely the reason he walked away from the vehicle was knowing that he had paraphernalia in there.
It was the last time anyone saw Jacob. Weeks says police initially thought Jacob made it safely off the mountain ahead of a massive storm.
We had the bomb cyclone storm that dumped a lot of snow in the area. We weren't able to do a search of the area until the beginning of July.
Still, Amanda and George Weeks have never given up hope.
Definitely need to search more of that area up top, though.
Searching the rugged terrain and areas near the accident.
It's a very hard area to search with the steep mountains, and then you have to worry about mountain lions and bears.
All the while hoping they'll get a call from somewhere else, someone recognizing Jacob's distinctive tattoos on his arms and calf and helping guide him home.
In my heart, I hope that one day I get a phone call from Mexico and somebody's telling me, I have your son here, he's on the phone, and we get to talk to him. But after 4 years, keeping up that hope is one of the hardest things.
But there is still hope. If you have questions about Jacob's case and disappearance, I encourage you to post them now. And if you have words of encouragement for the family, I like to share those and pass those along as well, because it is tough, every one of these cases. Amanda Weeks is with me now. She is Jacob's stepmom. Thank you for being here for part of this discussion. As I said a moment ago, this is a time and a space for us to just spend a little bit more time learning about the case, bringing in our social media audience. So hopefully, as this story is shared, somebody out there knows something, sees something, and can be of help. Amanda, I think it's always a good place to start learning more about Jacob and who he was. And in a story like that, we don't always get the time to do so. So tell me about your stepson, when you came into his life, and what he likes to do, who he is.
He was 4 years old when I got together with my husband, and he was the cutest blonde-haired, blue-eyed little toddler. I was there for his whole life. He loved skateboarding and playing baseball as a child and going camping, and we would go fishing in the mountains, and he was an all-around sweet young man, and he had an amazing sense of humor.
So 27 years old when he went missing. What types of things was he doing in his life around that time? Working, socially? What were things that filled his days?
So he was working. He was building decks and working on houses in the mountains in Colorado. He had just broken up with his girlfriend.
And that was tough for him. He was having a hard time with that.
He was, yes. So they had been together for 3, almost 4 years, and they broke up. And so he was, at that point, he was homeless. He was living in his truck. He would stay at families' houses. And so he had to rebuild his life at that point.
Who was the last person, Amanda, that spoke to Jacob before he vanished?
He talked to his dad on the 30th of January for his birthday. The night before, he had picked up his younger uncle from work, and they got into an argument, and he kicked his uncle out of the car, and he drove away. That's the last person he talked to.
Is that in any way connected to his disappearance, why he might have taken off from that car crash that day?
I don't know if he was upset mentally, emotionally, maybe, but his uncle, they had a great relationship. He's about 5-6 years younger than Jacob.
Okay. So take me back to that day in early February in 2019. What was happening the day of the crash leading up to that moment on 285, just west of Denver?
So we don't know where he was the night before. All we know from the State Patrol report is that he was driving down the mountain. We don't know if his truck broke and he lost control, or if he possibly hit some water or ice on the side of the road. He hit the inner guardrail. The State Patrol thought he was doing 80 coming down the mountain, and hit about 500 feet of the inner guardrail.
Give me a little information. We mentioned in the piece that drugs were found in the car, some other things he had been dealing with that you think may have led to him, leaving the scene of that crash.
So there was paraphernalia, and there was a baggie that had some drugs in it. So at that point, we don't know what his mentally, if he was on anything or if he was sober, where he was even going.
Mm-hmm. But he walked away and left all his personal belongings behind. What evidence was in the car?
He had everything that he had owned in the back of the truck and inside. He left his phone and his wallet, and the inside of the truck was a mess.
How do witnesses describe Jacob when he walked away from that crash?
He seemed like he was unhurt, and he walked away, walked across the highway, looked like he had lit a cigarette and threw something on the ground.
Mm-hmm. So then at what point was he labeled missing? Did you guys make the call to police that you were concerned?
So because of him and his uncle getting an argument Friday night, we found out Saturday morning that they had an argument. So we tried to call him to find out what was going on. We couldn't get a hold of him Saturday or Sunday. We didn't actually know he was in the accident. Monday, we made him a missing person, and then Wednesday is the day we actually got a hold of somebody and found out he was in an accident.
Okay, and then at that point, a search begins of the area?
We had to wait for the storm to leave Wednesday. We weren't able to actually go up to the mountains until 2-3 days later to try to pass out flyers or see what we could find.
Oh, what an excruciating wait that must have been, to wait for the weather to pass.
And it was hard. But really, we didn't even know he was in an accident for the first 5 days. When he was made a missing person, they didn't try to look up any vehicles through registration to find out if he owned a vehicle. So we didn't even know he was in an accident at first.
In the piece, you mentioned bomb cyclone, one of those major winter storms. Take me back to what you remember about that storm and how soon after his accident that it hit and what it entailed.
So his accident was on Saturday morning. Wednesday morning is when the snowstorm came in. Schools were closed. Everybody was sent home from work early because of the coming snowstorm. I don't remember how much snow we got, but it was a lot of snow. A lot of businesses were closed. We had to wait a week or two before we could go up. In the mountains, you get more snow, so we couldn't actually do any searches because of all the snow on the side of the roads and on the mountains. It took until July to actually be able to do a search without snow or mud.
Are there any cameras in the area of where Jacob's car crashed? Anything that could provide some leads or some extra clues?
So up the road, close to where the accident is, there's a park and ride. That camera actually there does not work. There's a CETA camera that is by where his accident was. That one only shows quick bits of footage, and it's not saved or stored.
How closely are you all working with police? As I mentioned the last time you and I spoke, as more time passes, resources dwindle. What's the status of any investigation?
Pretty much the police aren't doing anything. His file sits on the detective's desk because there's no clues or tips really coming in for any sightings.
Are you all still actively searching in that area?
We do go out and do searches. We have a couple of nonprofits. Justice Takes Flight is one of them, who goes out and will try to help with setting up and doing searches in the area.
And what are some of the challenges, Amanda, with this terrain? I mean, how rugged and difficult is it to look around?
It's the foothills basically of the mountains. So you have a lot of steep mountain hills, a lot of drops and cliffs. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, no, it's very challenging. Have you all hired a private investigator? In many cases of missing people, we hear folks do that. Is that an avenue that you've pursued?
We've had a couple private investigators who started, but they haven't actually really done anything, no.
Over the last few years, have there been any leads, any possible sightings, anything to give you guys renewed hope?
We've had people call us and say they thought they saw him. They will say in front of 7-Elevens, and we'll ask them if they could check to see if this person has his tattoos. We've had phone calls from people in Mexico stating they saw Jacob, and then later somebody with a camera would actually record the people, and it's not Jacob. And
we're looking at some images of Jacob and his tattoos on the screen. That's the most recognizable thing about him. He's blonde-haired, blue eyes. What do his tattoos say, and what should people be looking for?
On his left forearm, he has warrior tattooed. On his right forearm, it's Colorado with a sun in the background. It is colored in. And then he has the other tattoo on his calf.
You know, it's got to be so tough for you and the entire family to have him gone. What do you miss most about Jacob right now?
I miss his sense of humor. I miss having him around, and I miss his hugs.
And if you could say anything to him, if somehow this video lands in front of him, what would you say?
I love you. You need to call us. We need to know you're okay. That's the hardest part, is not knowing where you are and that you're okay.
And mother's intuition is a great and incredible thing. What do you think happened, Amanda?
I hope and pray he walked away, that he's trying to start a new life somewhere, because not knowing is the hardest part.
My heart goes out to you. Thank you for giving us some time. Thank you for sharing Jacob with us. I pray that you all get answers and that he is out there somewhere and he is home safe with you soon. Amanda Weeks, the stepmom to Jacob, Paddock-Weeks. Thank you. Keep us posted. And I'll make sure to share this. And as we learn new information, we'll let you know as well. If you have any information on the disappearance of Jacob, you can contact the Jefferson County, Colorado Sheriff's Office. You heard Amanda say that as time passes, his case sits on a shelf. Our goal is, by getting his story out there, that it changes that more people are out there looking for Jacob. So thank you for being part of our discussion, to Amanda and to your entire family. And to you at home, if you have a missing person case that you think that we should know about, send it to us at newsnationnow.com/missing. So many of our cases come from the community. You are our eyes and our ears, and we appreciate partnering with you to bring hope to so many families of missing people. You can also send us tips through our NewsNation app. As always, thank you for being part of this discussion. I'll see you back here next Thursday for our latest case. I'm Marnie Hughes in Chicago.